listener, right? As opposed to, setting yourself up as a, micromanager, as a somebody who's dictating what needs to be done and criticizing everything that's going on. Then you can build a foundation where you can have those harder conversations about, hey, we should do this. This is actually what the science says. This is what is going to be helpful. This is what may be harmful and increased risk of injury and catastrophic injury or even death, right? Great example here has been, you know, uh, what we tried to do, and I actually started this at Howard, was we went in. People love talking about themselves. You see me, I'm talking about myself. So I'm going on and on and on, right? So one of the things we were able to do is go into the weight room and do sessions, like teaching sessions, right? Like, hey, strength and conditioning coach, teach us ATs how you teach or coach a squat. What are you looking at from a biomechanical efficiency standpoint? Why do you value this movement? What are some other movements that you value? What is your philosophy on that? Okay. Once you do that, you invite them in. Now they're bought in. They're like, okay, he let me do my thing. He respects me as an expert, so on and so forth. So then you go, okay, well, this is what we think about this in terms of the regressions of this movement. This is what we value in rehab. This is how we do that movement in our rehab protocols. And then you can have conversations around more serious issues. Like I had to talk with our strength and conditioning coaches about catastrophic injury risk, right? We had to go through that whole document from the NAT and the NCAA to make sure we were meeting all of those standards. But that wasn't the first conversation that we had. The first few conversations we had were, teach me and I'll teach you, and then we'll understand each other, and then we can have conversations, because I'm not coming from a questioning, domineering, condescending perspective. I'm genuinely coming from a curious as to what is, and my goal is always going to be what's best for you and your department, and what's best for student athletes primarily, as both of our priority. Um, that's the perspective I'm coming from, and it builds that trust. So I can walk in his space, he can walk in my space. There's not a bunch of defensiveness, that kind of thing. And obviously, that some of that is just is a testament to how great our strength and conditioning staff's personalities are and how receptive they are to stuff. But generally speaking, that's where that starts.
So that's
I
definitely one of
really
the
like
things
that.
I've noticed is if I go over to the weight room when they're in the weight room, even if I'm over there filling up coolers for practice or whatever, I just kind of walk around the weight room and I say, hey, um, when you're doing power clean, what's the correct way to do that or something like that, you know, and that conversation just builds from there. And then it really is just a curiosity. Like, hey, when I was lifting today, I felt weird when I was doing the deadlift. And what am I doing wrong? Or do I need to switch my hands or something like that? And so then they get to talking about themselves and what they used to do or why they teach it this way. And it truly is just a question without questioning. But I had a professor in college. She would start off the year by saying, "If you ask me a question and my face gets really scrunched up and I look like I'm telling you you're stupid, it's really just me trying to understand what your question is and where you're coming from." And
Mm,
so she started off the year with that, saying, "So ask me your questions, but know that I make this face because I'm concentrating on what you're saying and figuring out where the hangup is." And so, like, if you can have that time together, the regular conversation, just like you're just saying, then when that coach comes in yelling at me about, or questioning with intensity,
mm,
the not taping those athletes' ankles, well, we have that history. I know what's normal for that coach. I know what's, uh, our relationship. We talk about lots of different things. We talk about life and where we grew up and things like that. And so it's not so much of an issue. Whereas the coach where I don't know and doesn't know me comes in because we have that history. We've had that not first conversation before. So
mm,
I love it, Daniel.
yeah. And what's funny is, and you probably had this experience, I'm sure you have, because you've got that kind of relationship with them. What you'll get is apologies. You'll get apologies where they go, hey, and they'll explain, I was thinking about this, this, and this. I was just trying to get this done. I don't mean to question what you do. We know you know what you're doing. I've had enough of those as well to kind of help me go, hey, I don't want to respond like that. Like, I don't want to be so flustered and filled with emotion that I come off that way. But B, I can identify it as more of almost an insecurity, right? Than anything, right? Like I don't feel secure about what's going on right now. Help me feel secure with what's going on, and then I'll be fine. But right now, I don't feel secure about it. And with new head coaches, again, that's that feeling out process where it's like both of you guys are kind of like, you're not really yourself yet. He's sizing you up. You're trying to size he or she up. And it's like, okay, so how's this going to work? How are you really going to be? And I tell people, you want to know a true coach, that you want to know who the true identity of a coach is, have them lose a lot or win a lot. And then you'll know who they really are.
Okay, so I 100% agree with that. Like, I'm sure you saw me nodding over here while I'm trying to drive. But so I was at Elkhart for a year and a half, and we did not have a winning season in any sport but baseball. So, like you said, when a coach is winning a lot, their personality is one way. When they're losing a lot, their personality, either their true personality comes through or like their insecurities come through. And in my case, like that came through with my entire football coaching staff and my athletic director, because football wasn't doing good, and then basketball wasn't doing good, and girls sports weren't doing good, and all that's like weighing on my athletic director's shoulders, I'm sure. Like, I can only imagine, especially at the high school level when you're the head football coach. And his insecurities or his true personality, I don't really know. Those came out a lot more this year. And we started out strong. We did not finish anywhere near good. And it was because of injuries. It was because of COVID. It was just a bunch of different things. And that's where me and him butted heads, because like you said, like I tried to do the questioning thing, like, hey, I tried to talk to him, and then he started coming at me and like questioning me, and I would throw back like questions to him, like, hey, I don't understand why you're asking me this. Like, what's the motivation behind this question? And he didn't want anything to do with it. It was more like, this is what I'm explaining. And I'm like, I am the medical side, you are the athletic side. So from a medical perspective, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. Mm-hmm. But then I would turn around and say, why from an athletic side do you want to do this or not do this? Like, what is your reasoning? Maybe we can come at a compromise. There was no compromising. Mm-hmm. And it got so bad that it was like I was having to compromise my morals and my ethics that I couldn't do anymore. Like, I mean, not to get too deep, but I did have an athlete with severe mental health.
I feel like we're losing her.
Yeah, I think Victoria, you're too far in the woods there. So we'll have to pick up with Victoria.
Slow mo. I think I got her though, and I think environments where,
but one that was very severe, one I was concerned about, and I've gone through everything she's going through, and yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. I can hear you a little better now.
Okay, is it working now?
Yeah. I can hear you. You're not moving, but I can hear you.
Okay, that was weird. I think it may have been because there was a tractor trailer next to me blocking a signal, because I was like, I couldn't see you guys, but I could hear you, so that was weird.
Go ahead, Daniel.
No, what can be indicative of just an unhealthy environment and a toxic environment we got to be aware of, where just the environment is kind of a powder keg waiting for something bad to happen, is an environment where that is what Victoria is talking about is the case. And you got to kind of, and that was one of the reasons I left. Another reason I left my high school job, and that coach actually ended up getting fired too after I had left, was that I started seeing exactly what Victoria was saying, where it was, hey, I don't want to question you. Let me take a step back and you know, kind of check my emotions. But at every single point, you are questioning without any compromise or justifying of what you're doing. And I think that what you're doing is actually detrimental to the health and safety of this team and to these athletes. And so if you are seeing that over and over and over, and that's sort of, you know, indicative of the culture, and you're not getting any support, then those are hills that you can die on, right? Like I tell my staff, like, I'm not going to die on every hill, but there's a few that, hey, I'm willing to leave. I'm willing to pack my stuff up. I'm willing to go to toe with anybody for a few things, right? And if it's something that I know is directly, like I feel like I have a moral obligation to say something. I have a moral obligation to stop it and do everything in my power. And then I don't feel supported and it's not changing, then that's a sign that that's an environment, that's a toxic enough environment that I need to remove myself potentially and remove my hands from that environment, or just be ready to be dug in and just fight the good fight for as long as it takes, and not back down. Those are kind of your two options. I've been in both of those scenarios. Somewhere I said, you know what, if this is how it's gonna go, I'm removing my hands from it. I'm gonna go in this other direction. You guys are clearly, you know, committed to this philosophy and this way of doing things and building your culture this way. I don't think it's either going to be healthy, safe, or successful, and it wasn't. But I don't want my name attached to it. So I'm gonna move on, and maybe that'll be indicative of the fact that there needs to be significant change because it was bad enough that somebody that you otherwise respected and valued said they didn't want to be a part of it.
All right, so Daniel, obviously you're doing great things professionally, and you're working on your fourth kid. You're gonna be here very soon. And so tell me, do you feel like you've learned more about question without questioning from being an athletic trainer, or when that 2, 3, 4-year-old questions you and you just have to, because I said so?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, I would say, man, I think about, when I think about that phrase, I think about it in terms of work and professionally. But I guess me and my wife would say it would be more so from our marriage relationship, from me and my wife, like figuring out ways to communicate and not assume the worst, right? Like assume that the other person's motivation, like they're not doing that thing to annoy you. Like that's not their motivation. Their motivation is not to make your life hard. Their motivation is not to make you sad or whatever. Their motivation, assume that their motivation is, you know, if not helpful, at least benign, right? Like assume that, right? Love hopes all things, right? Trust all things. So you trust that, you know, this woman who was my bride, who I love with all of my life and all of my heart, she's not trying to do me any harm. She either said something or did something, you know, benignly. And same way, you know, there's a bunch of things I do that I know annoy the heck out of my wife, but like she assumed, right, she says it comes from a long history of knowing the person as well, and working out a lot of those differences. And me and my wife just, we communicate very differently. That's the other thing, is that learning that, that's the other thing about questioning without questioning, right? Question without questioning is people communicate very differently. Me and my wife are very different in terms of like how we interact with people, how we communicate. Like I am more of an internal processor. She's more of an external processor. You know, although I like to externally process certain things, other things I just got to go off and be by myself, and kind of like, that's what happened when she said that she was pregnant the first time. Like she expected me to just go, oh my gosh. And I was like, I got to think about this. Like I had to, but I legitimately, and what she knows now is she's just overjoyed and thinking about all the positives. I'm trying to process a lifetime worth of things I want to keep that child safe from. Like they're going to go through this, and then how am I going to think about this? And I want, what do I want? I want this for them, and I want that for them, and it's just weighty. It was just weighty for me to, you know, understand that I was going to be given this responsibility and privilege that was so precious and important, right? And so she was kind of upset by that because she was thinking like, well, why aren't you happy? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with you? Right. But then over time, she understood that it was just me trying to process a lot of the things that she processes later. Oh, on like, oh, kids are getting older. They're going to be doing this. And oh, I'm worried about this now. And I'm worried about that. And I'm like, yeah, I tried to worry about all of that before they were born. You know? And so, yeah, I think more so than anything, it's like my partner in life, my wife, is learning from that relationship more so than even the kids, because, you know, trying to make sure that our kids honor her at home, and trying to make sure that our kids honor me when I'm around, and making sure we're supporting each other and on the same page as we parent our children and try to shepherd our children well in a lot of different situations. I think that's probably boasted it more than anything. And just having somebody again to talk all this stuff through, because me and my wife talk, I mean, she's my number one advisor when it comes to like work stuff. Like, am I thinking about this right? How do you see this? Like, this person said this and this was going on. That happens like maybe once a day. Now, this person said this and this is going on, and this is a situation, this is a background. Am I crazy? And then she just, you know, gives me her opinion, and like, okay, I'm like, okay, I am crazy, or, you know, maybe I'm not crazy, kind of thing. So I think I've definitely learned more of what I'm talking about from being married, even more so than even having kids. My kids are still pretty young too, so they do need to just listen. 9 times out of 10, they do just need to listen without questioning, because I don't have time to explain why you